Today we're in the Polytunnel. It's very warm outside, probably 24-25 degrees, and it feels like about 40 degrees in here. So it's extremely hot, which is a good environment for growing certain things. Today I'm going to be planting some tomato plants and showing you how I do it, and also giving you some tips for how to look after the plants so that you get a good amount of tomatoes from each and every plant. When I first started growing tomatoes a few years ago, I didn't really know what I was doing, and I ended up getting lots of green leaves but very few tomatoes. So in today's video I will show you how I'm actually going to plant them, and then I'll give you some tips about how I'm going to look after them as well. So don't forget to give the thumbs up if you like the video, and to subscribe if you like the channel. So without further ado, let's get into how to plant tomatoes and how to look after them. So here's the ground where I'm going to plant these tomatoes. About 2 weeks ago I dug this over with a fork to a fairly reasonable depth in order to break up the soil and make it as fine as possible. I knew that there'd be plants going in here. And the reason you do that is because you want the tomatoes to get as good a start as possible and to establish into the ground as quickly as possible. So if you prepare the soil correctly, that'll give your tomatoes every single chance of growing. Plants like tomatoes, they're not too fussy on the type of soil. They're growing most things. Maybe clay is not the best, but any other type of soil is generally okay with a little bit of care and attention. So when I put these tomatoes in, I'm going to put them in about 1.5 to 2 feet apart, which you'll see in a minute. And we're going to dig into the ground, plant each of the tomatoes you can see in front of you, and then we're going to put a cane up just to give them a bit of support. These 3 tomato plants have been provided to me by Andy, who's a allotmentier, who's a few allotments up from me. So thanks Andy. I generally buy tomato plants rather than grow them from seed over the last few years. But as I said in my last video, when I get my new polytunnel, I plan to start to grow more things, which will include tomatoes from seed and more different varieties of them as well. The varieties that I've been given, the smaller one on the left hand side is Black Russian. The one in the middle we're not sure of. It's got a label Tigris on the front, but on the back it's also got Black Russian, so we'll see. It does look different from the other one, so I'm guessing that's probably Tigris, which is a larger tomato. And on the far right hand side you have Tigris, which is another variety of tomato. So I've put one plant in already, which you can't see, which I'll show you in a moment. So we're going to put this next plant in now, and the way that I do it is I'll roughly measure 2 foot from the previous plant. Just use the small fork here and dig this. Now look how fine this soil is here. You can see there's, you know, it's well dug. In fact, you could put this tomato plant straight into here. So you just dig a hole ready for the plants, just get it out, just get this loose soil out. Not too deep, but the reason I make mine a little bit deeper is because what I do is I'll put a handful or 2 handfuls of multi-purpose compost in the bottom just to give it a head start and just pat it down. That goes in the base of the hole, and then with this plant here now, you just squeeze the bottom of the plant pot here, and then it just gently lifts out. What we'll do then is put the tomato in, and then just put the soil back around it, and then just gently around it push it down like this, but making sure that you don't squeeze too close to the actual stem, because you could end up damaging the plant. And what we'll do then is we'll put a cane up to give that some support, and what we'll do as the plant grows, the tomato plant grows, we will train the tomato plant up the cane. And then what we'll do is just give the plant a little bit of water with taking the rows off, and just gently water around the base of the tomato plant. So here you can see the 3 tomato plants have now been planted, so they're all in position, and also you'll notice that there's a cane now attached to each one. as the plants grow, we'll train the tomatoes up the canes just to give them that extra bit of support that they actually need. You'll also notice that if you can just see as we go into there, there's a tie just around the actual stem of the tomato, the middle one. I've done that for the other larger one as well. Now these are the plastic ties that you buy. They're just the tie bands. They're quite easy to install. But one thing to remember when you use these type of ties is that always leave a little bit of space between the tie so that it's fairly loose fitting. It's fairly loose, and the reason for that is because if you do it too tight, as the plant grows and starts to establish and the stem starts to get thicker, it can often end up almost strangling itself, and the plant or the tie will cut into the plant. So just make them loose. And what I'll do as well, as the plant starts to grow, I'll take that tie off the bottom and then move it up so that it's only got a limited amount of ties. But you will need ties for the tomato plants to ensure that they get the support that they need, because they are quite heavy plants when they start to grow. And you can see the smaller one which is near the door there. I haven't put a tie on that one just yet because it's a little bit small, but I will do when it gets a little bit bigger. So once the plants are in and ready, really the next stage is just looking after them. They do take a little bit of care. They do like to be watered, particularly when the temperatures get really warm. Days like today, which I've already said is very, very hot, the temperature in the Polytunnel may be 10 to 15 degrees higher. So there's a lot of heat in here, therefore a lot of the soil's drying out very, very quickly because any moisture in there will be evaporating. So make sure you water the tomatoes in temperatures like this on a daily basis, I would suggest. And when you water tomato plants as well, water at the base of the plant. Don't use a rose and water over the foliage and the leaves. Water at the base so that the water is going directly to the roots. One thing you may think about doing as well is supplementing the nutrients in the ground by using some form of tomato feed, and there's plenty of those on the market. They will generally have or add additional nitrogen and phosphorus into the soil to give the tomato the extra nutrients it needs. The instructions for the tomato feeds will be on the bottle or the packet, whichever you get. And make sure you read them thoroughly. Generally they may recommend that you use tomato feed about once every 7 days, and it will tell you on the instructions what the dilution with water is as well, and make sure you look at that carefully. So if you are going to use tomato feed, definitely read the instructions on the packet. To use a tomato feed as well, it's recommended that you don't start using the tomato feed until you start to see the first flowers appear or trusses, so that could be in a number of weeks after you've planted them. So just read the instructions carefully and it'll tell you when the best time to feed is. So one final point just for tomato plants care and maintenance is, as the plant starts to grow, make sure that you train the main stem up the cane or whatever you're supporting them with. And also as well, in order to ensure that you get as much energy into the main stem as possible, what you'll need to do is look at where the branches come off the main stem, and if you start to get further branches growing in that junction, then you need to gently, with your thumb and forefinger, just gently nip them out, because they will grow to a fairly sort of large size if you don't do that, and that takes more energy out of the plant. This is a mistake I made when I first started growing tomatoes. I didn't do that. I ended up with loads of vegetation everywhere, and I thought I was going to get loads of tomatoes. But actually, by nipping them out, you're allowing the energy to go back into the main stem, and that helps you to produce more healthier and more tomatoes as well. So there's a few tips there for tomato growing. I'll do a video later in the year just to see or show you how the tomatoes are getting on. And if you have any questions or comments that you'd like to add, then please put them below the video. Give it the thumbs up if you like the video, and subscribe obviously. And also as well, if you're more experienced allotmenteer or gardener and you've grown tomatoes for many years and you've got any tips that you think would be useful for watchers of the video, then please add them in the comments below, because I'm sure we all will be glad to learn from each other. So I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'm going to end the video now before I melt. I don't know what temperature it is now in here, but it is very, very hot. So I'll see you all on the next video.